Spider-Man done it! Yes, she has!
So excited, so proud to be bringing home a medal for Canada.
C'est sûr que c'était un de mes gros buts de la saison, puis de réussir à faire le podium, c'est incroyable.
That's a podium for Jack Crawford.
Very surreal. I don't think it's fully sunk in yet.
Derrière la passe, le retour, Poulet, le but! Le Canadien refait le titre olympique!
Vraiment, j'ai des anges à quelque part qui sont là avec moi parce que, ouf, je sais pas comment c'était encore.
Michael Kingsbury.
On peut comprendre que ça vient avec beaucoup de pression.
It's a full set at the games for Dubois.
Je suis vraiment fier et super content.
Pour moi, c'est ça, je suis vraiment contente.
We like it.
Apologies. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour à tous. On behalf of the Canadian Olympic team, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Canadian Olympic team's Milano Cortina 2026 opening press conference. Je m'appelle Vanessa et je vous souhaite la bienvenue de la part de l'équipe canadienne olympique à Milan. Je souhaite à tous les médias une chaleureuse bienvenue à Milan et notre équipe de communication a bien hâte de travailler avec vous lors des prochains 17 jours. Before I begin, I would like to recognize that our Canadian operations occur on the traditional treaty and unceded territories that are part of Turtle Island. Nous sommes fiers d'être ici à Milan et partager avec vous un aperçu d'Équipe Canada 2026. Joining us on stage today are the President of the Canadian Olympic Committee, la Présidente du Comité olympique canadien, four-time Olympian, Olympic silver medalist in rowing, and IOC member Tricia Smith. The CEO and Secretary General of the Canadian Olympic Committee, le Directeur général et Secrétaire général du Comité olympique canadien, David Shoemaker. Le chef du sport du Comité olympique canadien, the COC's Chief of Sport, Eric Myles. Team Canada's chef de mission for Milano Cortina 2026, la chef de mission d'équipe Canada, championne olympique, Jennifer Heil. Et je suis fière de me joindre à vous en tant qu'animatrice de cette conférence de presse. It's an honor for me to be Team Canada's press chief at these Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Games. A special welcome to la présidente d'À Nous le Podium, the CEO of Own the Podium, Anne Merklinger, who is joining us this morning. Each of our speakers will be delivering short remarks, which will then be followed by a question and answer period. Débutons maintenant avec la présidente du Comité olympique canadien, the president of the Canadian Olympic Committee, Tricia Smith. Tricia, over to you.
Merci, Vanessa. Et buongiorno, everyone. Really excited to be here. Bienvenue à tous. Je suis très heureux d'être ici avec vous. And can I assume, tell me if I'm wrong, I'm in a room full of sports fans. I can't remember a time in my life, in my household, where the Olympic year was not a cause for excitement. As kids, we were glued to the TV. It was probably the only time we were allowed to be glued to the TV. It was sunny outside in Vancouver. You had to get outside, but we'd be glued to the TV. We were pulled into this world of incredible performances. Would Gaëtan Boucher win another medal? I'm showing my age here. Would Catriona Lemaidon be able to double on the gold? The Crazy Canucks, Steve Podborski winning a medal, Ken Reed's binding breaking, and then Tyler Cranston, the two Bryans, and more recently, the incredible success of athletes in 2010, a record 14 golds, including the first on Canadian soil, and of course the hockey golds, saw a bit of that. And you know, being from Vancouver, where the sense of Canada in its entirety sometimes doesn't seem to get over the mountains, I never felt the country so united. Then of course, Sochi 2014, Pyeongchang 2018, Beijing 2022, so many thrilling and memorable performances. And these games are no different. I was fortunate to have been on the plane with a number of our team members coming over from Montreal, some of the short track speed skaters. And I don't know how to describe it, but the atmosphere, it was calm, but there was this underlying feeling of this bubbling excitement and joy and pride in the athletes. And certainly any time it was mentioned on the plane that the team was on there would be an eruption of applause, and it just never gets old. So our team's ready. The athletes, our coaches, the support team are ready, and they'll be proudly led by Mariel Thompson and Mick Kingsbury into tomorrow's opening ceremonies. 17 days creating memories that will last a lifetime. And as you know, the Canadian Olympic Committee, the Olympic committees in all countries, they have a role of sending teams to the Games and to promote Olympism in Canada. We're a not-for-profit and funded primarily by the private sector. I'm a volunteer, best volunteer job ever, I have to say, as is our superb chef de mission, Jennifer Heil. Merci, Jen. And our CEO, David Shoemaker, he leads an incredible team behind the team that leaves no stone unturned to support our Olympians before, during, and after the Games. So thank you, David, to you and the team. Thanks also to those who have made Canada's participation in these Games possible. The families, the friends, our national sport organizations who, despite chronic and ongoing financial challenges, support the development of the athletes. They hire the coaches, they run the programs, a national system that is also supported by thousands of volunteers. That's our system in Canada. Thanks to the Government of Canada, the Canadian Sport Institute, huge thanks to Anne Merklinger, who's already been mentioned, and her team at On the Podium, incredible partners in high-performance sport. And of course, all the fans and supporters at home and around the world. Merci à vous tous. Warmest wishes to our IOC president. I'm very impressed with her. Christy Coventry, the first woman, first African to hold this role. Most importantly, she was the best candidate. And we're really excited to see what she's going to do with the Olympic movement, representing the Olympic movement, something that we all care deeply about. We wish her every success in her first Olympic Games as president. These Games fully embrace the IOC's Agenda 2020+5, which is really designed to bring the Games to the venues as opposed to making the venues have to accommodate the Games. It's intended to be a more sustainable approach. It's the first time it's happened, so obviously there are going to be great learnings from these Games, what works, what doesn't, and so we're excited to participate in that. Here in Italy, obviously the existing venues are set in some of the most breathtaking landscapes in the country, so it's going to be amazing Games. You know, we often speak about the power of sport. There's no question that in today's fractured world, coming together through sport is needed more than ever. On the field of play, Canadians are fierce competitors. Off the field of play, we're partners in the pursuit of excellence and often the very best of friends with those we've just competed against. Sport provides opportunities for these genuine people-to-people connections. I certainly felt that in my athletic career. It's all about building a better person, a better country, a better world through sport, or if nothing else, just providing incredible moments of joy and unity for individual Canadians and for our country. So bon succès au comité organisateur des Jeux de Milano Cortina 2026. Congratulations to the Fondation Milano Cortina 2026. And best of luck to President Giovanni Malago and his entire team. And finally, most importantly, to Team Canada 2026. We wish you the very best. You inspire Canadians from coast to coast to coast, including kids glued to their screens, different kind of screens these days, as I was so many years ago. So thank you all very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Tricia. And now please welcome the CEO and Secretary General of the Canadian Olympic Committee, le chef de la direction et secrétaire général du Comité olympique canadien, Monsieur David Shoemaker.
Merci Vanessa et bonjour à tous. C'est avec une immense émotion et un profond enthousiasme que je me tiens enfin ici à Milan pour vivre ces Jeux olympiques d'hiver après des mois et même des années de préparation. Nous y sommes. Vanessa, you said short remarks, perhaps not so short, but hopefully these are meaningful. And most importantly, I want to start by saying how much I appreciate all of you being here. I know how hard your jobs are to cover these games, and getting harder all the time. The media is an essential part of the sports system in Canada, and I always value our interactions. And so I hope you all have a very rewarding games here in Milano Cortina. In my role, I'm not supposed to play favorites with any sports or even with seasons, but I think for Canadians, there's always something special about the Winter Games. Never more so, it seems, than perhaps this winter, when tensions globally are high and our sporting rivalry with our neighbor to the south is at a fever pitch. Attention and expectations will be higher than ever. And like everyone on the stage here in front of you today, I'm confident that Team Canada is poised to deliver. We have 206 athletes here in Italy, and we don't have to look far for inspiring stories. Take our flag bearers, Mick Kingsbury with his 100th World Cup win this year, and Marielle Thompson making a truly remarkable comeback from injury. Or Jack Crawford, whose historic season last season, including his win at Kitzbühel, energized an entire nation of young skiers. Or the incredible speed skating teams, both short and long track, and of course ice hockey. This will be the first time we'll see NHL players at the Olympics in Sochi, so my first time to see NHL players in Olympic Games. And the first time ever, they'll be joining professional women's hockey players getting unprecedented attention in the PWHL. Canadian athletes have, in my opinion, been performing well above what we should expect based on the resources at their disposal. This is to their great credit. The passion, dedication, and resilience of Team Canada's athletes consistently amazes me. They are the best in the world, and I know we'll witness that here in Italy. The future's more uncertain. For several years now, the COC and many of our partners in the sports system have been vocal about the funding shortfall in Canadian sport. Many sports have been forced to cut essential training, camps, and other services that we would once have considered essential. We know we have a thinning athlete pool and real concerns for the next generation of athletes. And at the risk of insulting a room full of sports journalists, I want to emphasize one thing that people are often surprised to hear, which is that the COC is almost entirely privately funded. We rely on the support of our 39 marketing partners and the Canadian Olympic Foundation donors to invest in high-performance sport in Canada and to deliver the most successful team possible to the Olympic Games. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge each of those partners, not each of them, I won't list all 39, but to acknowledge them, and without their contribution and support, Team Canada athletes would very likely not be here, ready to compete on the world stage and make Canada so proud. At the COC, we're doing everything we can to invest more in Canadian sport and in Canadian athletes. In the last year, we welcomed 10 new marketing partners to Team Canada. Today, we have a more robust commercial business than we've ever had. The burden of that relative success is not lost on us. That's why last week we launched Team Canada 2035, our 10-year strategy to transform Canada through sport. This strategy sets ambitious goals for sport in Canada, and it's built on 3 pillars. Podium, we want to be a top 5 nation by combined winter-summer medal count. Play, we want to get 1 million more young people engaged in organized sport. And planet, we want to preserve our sporting environments. Team Canada 2035 represents a more than $500 million private investment in the sports system, and it's a commitment to direct those funds where they'll make the most impact, and finally to connect Olympic sport. Everything we're about to witness here in Italy these next 2 weeks with sport at the grassroots participation level. And all of that, I believe, is reason to be optimistic. If you're with us here, I think we're in for a hell of a games. And if you're watching at home, there are more ways than ever for Canadians to engage with athletes in the Olympic Games, beginning with the amazing coverage of CBC Radio Canada, 7 in 10 Canadians tuned in to watch Paris 2024, 27 million Canadians. And we expect even more this time around. Canadians can also gather at Team Canada Fan Fest in 4 cities across Canada, Toronto, Calgary, Vancouver, and Montreal, each weekend of the games to cheer on Team Canada. And thanks to activations from several national sports organizations, try their hand at Olympic sport. Ces expériences uniques offrent aux jeunes Canadiens et Canadiennes une occasion de se laisser inspirer et de vivre pleinement l'esprit olympique. Moments like this can be transformational, and we hope that for many young people across the country, they instill a lifetime of passion and engagement in sport. The future of sport in this country depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you, David. J'ai maintenant le plaisir de vous présenter le chef du sport du Comité olympique canadien, M. Eric Myles.
Merci Vanessa, bienvenue à tous. Ça me prend toujours par surprise, mais c'est vraiment un bon moment d'émotion quand on se retrouve ici, juste au lancement des Jeux. It's always a great moment of emotion, honestly, that cut us when we come here, realizing all the work to come here. Thank you for being with us here present, but also the one that are connecting from Canada. This is really appreciated. Ces Jeux de Milano Cortina 2026 ont demandé un travail incroyable. Ils nous ont lancé de nouveaux défis avec des sites emblématiques situés partout dans cette magnifique région de montagneuse du nord de l'Italie. La préparation d'un événement comme celui-ci s'étale sur une vie complète, alors que pour l'équipe, derrière l'équipe, c'est des années de dévouement pour y arriver. D'où un peu les émotions ce matin. Ma première visite ici remonte déjà à quelques années en préparation. L'accueil chaleureux que nous avons reçu dès le début n'était qu'un départ. Je désire remercier le comité organisateur pour son dévouement et sa passion. Chaque étape du parcours, nous y sommes parvenus ensemble. Grazie, mes amis. My Italian is getting good. Notre délégation d'athlètes vient des 4 coins du Canada, de Whistler à Halifax, passant par le Yukon et les autres régions superbes de notre grand pays. Nous avons un groupe uni par le même objectif, celui de rendre notre pays fier. Et à mes yeux, honnêtement, ce bout-là est déjà accompli. Et vous ne trouverez certainement pas un groupe plus fier que leurs familles et les amis qu'on va croiser, qui sont de retour en grand nombre pour ce qui marque un vrai retour au jeu pleinement ouvert. Cette fois, du côté hivernal, comme nous l'avons vécu à Paris, et je vous le dis, pour l'avoir vécu, c'était vraiment un choc pour les athlètes, même pour nous, de réaliser ce qu'on avait manqué finalement avec les Jeux pandémiques. Sentir cette énergie, nous avons tous vraiment hâte de revivre ce moment. D'ailleurs, nous allons avoir un premier aperçu de cette ambiance dès demain soir, lors de la cérémonie d'ouverture, et cela m'amène à nos 2 porte-drapeaux qui ont été mentionnés plus tôt, Marielle Thompson et Mick Kingsbury. Michael, je peux l'appeler Mick. Je me rappelle de les avoir vus participer à leur premier jeu à Sochi en 2014, qui était en même temps mes premiers jeux à moi également, de les avoir vus grandir depuis les années, devenir les 6 grands leaders pour le sport au Canada. C'est vraiment une nomination pleinement méritée. Ces 2 athlètes sont des modèles d'engagement et de dévouement. Ils incarnent les valeurs d'Équipe Canada, réellement. On est choyé d'avoir des leaders comme eux, comme Jen, tous présents avec nous. Cette année, notre équipe est composée d'Olympiens et d'Olympiennes d'expérience, dont 47 médaillés et de 109 recrues qui vivront leur premier jeu ici à Milano Cortina. Cela représente plus de la moitié de l'équipe. Pendant les prochaines semaines, nous allons découvrir l'avenir du Canada, des nouveaux noms, des nouvelles vedettes. Nous allons découvrir même 8 anciens... Nous avons même 8 enfants d'anciens Olympiens qui sont avec nous. Et c'est là que je commence à sentir un petit peu mon âge en suivant ces jeunes grandir avec les familles. I know we have a huge bias here. I have a huge bias, but I really love this team. It looks so strong and ready. I'm fired up by this amazing group of athletes and all the support team behind it. One of the key strengths of this edition of the Team Canada is the scope of our performance across many different events at these games. That's what makes it so exciting for Team Canada. As I mentioned earlier in French, the number tells a great story. The 206 athletes on the Team Canada feature a great mix of returning Olympians and the following: 47 medalists, 109 rookies making their Olympic debut, 8 second-generation Olympians, 107 registered in women events, and 99 in men's. We're quite proud of our women's team, so strong. 4 sets of siblings. We are also competing in new events like the spectacular dual moguls, the luge women's double, the skeleton mixed team, the ski jumping women's, the large hill, and the alpine climbing team combined. Le talent, les compétences, la résilience et la motivation ne suffisent pas pour atteindre la plus grande scène sportive au monde. Il faut aussi du soutien, un plan, et les athlètes, les entraîneurs, leur entourage et leur sport se sont concentrés sur chacun de ces détails pour arriver ici fin prêt. C'est aussi ce que nous faisons en arrière de la scène. Nous ne laissons aucune pierre non retournée. Nous voulons offrir un environnement digne du travail de nos athlètes. Et toujours là pour nous appuyer, c'est un réel travail de longue haleine et de collaboration avec les fédérations, À nous le podium, Sport Canada, le réseau des institutions et la Fondation du Comité olympique canadien et d'autres groupes semblables aussi qui viennent supporter. Essentiellement, ça revient à l'importance de la performance humaine. C'est ici qu'on est là pour ça. C'est la performance humaine, nos efforts pour leur fournir un environnement sécuritaire et soutenir leur niveau de santé, tout ce qui comporte l'environnement qui leur permettra de se sentir bien et de performer à leur mieux. Et cela malgré un système sportif, David l'a mentionné tantôt, qui n'a pas vu d'augmentation significative de financement depuis la dernière fois que nous sommes venus en Italie en 2006. This creates a reality for our Canadian athletes and our sports to work with added resilience and innovation to be competitive at the highest level globally. Les athlètes canadiens et leur entourage continuent de viser l'excellence, de se mesurer aux meilleurs au monde. Cela mérite d'être reconnu et applaudi. Ils ont surmonté énormément d'obstacles pour arriver ici en Italie. Toutes ces années de préparation atteindront un moment culminant au cours des prochains jours. Une fois la flamme allumée, elle brillera aussi fort que jamais parce que le sport continue de rassembler les Canadiens et le monde entier comme rien d'autre ne le peut. We do need these games big time, all of us. Merci encore une fois. Vanessa, je te retourne la parole.
Merci beaucoup, Eric. She is an Olympic champion in freestyle skiing moguls. In fact, that gold was won here in Italy 20 years ago. She's a 4-time world champion and a 3-time Olympian. She is inspiring, dynamic, and our chef de mission. Voici la chef de mission de l'équipe olympique canadienne, Jennifer Heil.
Merci, Vanessa. Hello, bonjour. I am so excited to be back here in Italy with all of you. 20 years ago, I had the ability to stand on top of the podium in the Piazza Castello and hear the Canadian anthem. And I have to say, it's been worth the wait. I've already, the Italian flavor is in full swing of these games. It's also been incredibly humbling to be on this side, not as a competing athlete, but to truly understand how well prepared our athletes are. We have had staff working for 5 years to make sure that everything is in place for these athletes. It's amazing to see how far the Canadian sports system has come in the last 20 years. Nous sommes ici sur la ligne de départ, unis et prêts pour représenter le Canada. We're here at the start line, united and ready to represent Canada. And of course, as you know, there are immense challenges that our athletes have overcome just to be here at the start line. Take, for example, Megan Oldham, who has fought her way back from serious injury to continue to soar through the air on her skis. Antoine Gilnet-Beaulieu, who followed his intuition and carved out a path to support his long-term performance, aligning both mental and physical health. Abby Strait, who followed her passion for ski jumping, making great personal sacrifices to help build a Canadian legacy in this sport. And we're grateful that you're here to share so many more of those stories as the games kick off. I want to take a moment on behalf of the athletes to thank Canadians for standing with this team. We can't do it alone. We can't do it without Canadians behind us. And I know that this team is going to move our country. As chef de mission, it's been an absolute pleasure to officially get to wear the maple leaf once again. And we've already spoken about it, but it really marked a lot of us traveling over here to Italy in our team uniforms, interacting with Canadians. And I was so blown away and reminded about the power of sport, where everybody went out of their way to wish us good luck and to share an anecdote about how they too are connected to the Olympic movement and to our athletes. Canada's Olympic athletes are a rare kind of power. They unite us and they show the world what Canada looks like under pressure. Proud, respectful, relentless. That's worth celebrating. Of course, I'm a little bit biased as an Olympic athlete myself, but also as now a proud parent, I can tell you that I have never found sport more important than I do now, trying to raise two rambunctious boys with these values of resiliency and respect. And yes, they sent me to Milan with their shopping list for some official Olympic gear. As I wrap up, I want to thank our Italian hosts who have already warmly welcomed us, whether walking through the streets of Milan where people stop and smile and look at the Canadian outfit, comment on how nice it is too, or navigating the restaurants in Milan where I tried to explain to my waiter that I had a serious jet lag stomach, but he wouldn't have it. He said I needed to try his spicy oil and assured me it wasn't too spicy. Le talent de cette équipe est historique. This is an immensely talented team, and they're in their final preparations. And very soon we will see them walking into opening ceremonies to show the world just what Canadian excellence looks like. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jen. Before we open it up to questions, I just wanted to share a few important notes for our media friends. Our comms team will be based here at the MPC, which is just down the hall to my left from this room, and we will be pleased to welcome you there throughout the games if you have any questions. Notre bureau ici au centre de presse est situé sur le même étage à quelques mètres d'ici à ma gauche. You may already know our incredible team already. We have Peter Saltzman, our assistant press chief, Manny Almela, our press operations lead, Sylvie Bigra, our press officer, and some of you may also be seeing our press officer, Sam Sokol, in Livigno, and we also have Tara McBurney, our sports comms lead in Predazzo. The press resources section on olympic.ca will be your go-to place for information such as schedules, results, contact information, releases, advisories, and much more. And if you haven't already, you can sign up to receive our media advisories and press releases. And just a reminder, as is the case at every Olympic Games, some events don't have the capacity to house all accredited media, and so the IOC has a protocol to assign National Olympic Committee's limited high-demand tickets for media. These include the opening and closing ceremonies and potentially other events, so we will keep you posted on that. Notre équipe de communication s'occupera de distribuer des billets pour les événements à haute demande. N'hésitez pas à communiquer avec vous si vous avez des questions. And of course, our media sport attachés are your go-to contacts for interview requests and everything related to our sports and athletes. They will be in mixed zones with their athletes, and given the distance between clusters, they will be helping arrange virtual media opportunities as well, in addition to on-site at their venues. And lastly, we do have 4 photographers as part of our communications team. Leah Hennel is here with us today, and you will find a live link to photos in our end-of-day recap emails. So with that, nous allons commencer la séance de questions. Je vous rappelle d'utiliser les micros fournis et d'identifier votre nom et organisme en même temps. Please share your name and the organization before asking your question. We will have volunteers circulating the room with handheld microphones. And we would like to ask that you limit yourself to one question just so we can give everyone a turn. And just a little note that we only have this room till 11:58. But all of our speakers will be available for one-on-ones afterwards. So if you don't get a chance to ask your question here, no worries. They will be around until 12:30, and you can come see Peter, Sylvie, or myself afterwards, if you'd like to do that. And so with that, allons-y avec notre première question.
Good morning, bonjour, buongiorno to the entire team. Chris Reyes with Canadian Broadcasting. I want to start with a question that I'm sure is on top of mind for everybody, and that is the condition of Mark McMorris. We all saw the concerning photo of him on a stretcher in Livigno. We don't have a lot of details about what led up to that crash, what the weather conditions were, what he was practicing. Can you share as much details as you can with us now?
It's a fresh story. We're the most important right now. Mark is doing fine. He's good. He's out of the hospital. He's good. He's in the village, back with the athletes. It's a situation, of course, we're assessing hour per hour, I would say. It's with the specialists and the doctor, with all the different protocols that we have in place. And from there, we're going to take decision with him to see for the continuity de son parcours olympique, of his continuity.
Vanessa, can I do a follow-up, just because it is such a concerning story? When you say that he's being assessed hour by hour, what is the top concern, and what will determine whether he will be able to compete?
I wouldn't share everything. Like, I want to respect, the confidentiality and the health situation and everything there. It's when we say assessing, first of all, it's not just one doctor. Like our CMO, our Chief Medical Officer, Mike Wilkinson, is working on the case there, but also with the doctor, Mr. French, linked with the sports. So they're all together on this. So there's different protocol that we're looking. At the end is, we're not going to take chance, like for the health of an athlete, and same for the athlete. So we're working with them to put them in the best condition to compete, but also to make a decision if different decision needs to be taken. But right now, it'd be premature to take any decision right now.
Bonjour Eric, juste à votre gauche. Ici.
Oui, OK.
Allô, je m'appelle Yves Poirier, je suis journaliste à TVA. Éric, essentiellement, répétez en français ce que vous avez dit. Et je veux vous entendre aussi sur l'état des infrastructures, beaucoup de questions de la qualité de la glace également en matière de hockey sur glace. Je veux vous entendre d'abord sur les blessures et ensuite sur la qualité des infrastructures, notamment la patinoire.
OK. Bien, sur l'histoire des blessures, premièrement, c'est une réalité du sport. C'est une réalité qu'on voit qui est assez présente dans les sports d'hiver aussi. Donc, on est toujours prêt à ça. Je parlais tantôt quand on disait les mots plus longs un peu, mais au niveau de la santé, la sécurité, c'est toujours la priorité numéro 1 pour l'équipe. Il y a beaucoup de choses qu'on fait de ce côté-là, même de prévention de santé, de tout ça. Donc, avec les médecins, autant les médecins des équipes, les médecins intégrés avec le Comité olympique canadien, ça devient un travail commun lorsqu'on arrive dans le contexte des Jeux. Je parlais de protocole, il y a différents protocoles qu'on suit, donc il n'y a rien de ça qui est pris à la légère, bien au contraire. On est conscient des risques, la réalité de ces sports-là, et c'est un travail de longue haleine. Le Canada, on est reconnu comme un des pays qui est vraiment le leader de ce côté-là. On collabore avec d'autres pays, on n'est pas les seuls, mais justement avec les professionnels et ces collaborations-là pour vraiment en arriver avec le meilleur entourage pour les athlètes. Pour ce qui est de la deuxième portion, au niveau des infrastructures, je dirais que c'est la belle surprise depuis qu'on est arrivé, honnêtement. Quand on se prépare pour les Jeux, on se prépare toujours pour... comment je pourrais dire? Si on n'est pas prêt pour s'adapter aux pires situations, à quelque part, on n'est pas assez prêt. Et puis, je vous dirais, depuis qu'on est arrivé, Moi, les commentaires que j'ai reçus, puis ça, je pense que les plus importants, c'est les commentaires des athlètes, notamment. Si je pense aux patineurs vitesse, courte piste, longue piste, prenons le longue piste qui, par exemple, se retrouvait dans le centre des congrès, la glace, tout ça, la qualité de la glace, la traction sur la glace, etc., ça se passe bien. Je comprends que dans ta question, tu visais peut-être Santa Giulia aussi, au niveau de l'aréna, ces choses-là. Luc Tardif, qui est président de la Fédération, un bon Québécois, un bon ami de Trois-Rivières. On a eu des discussions, tout ça. On n'est pas inquiète de ce côté-là. Les choses, honnêtement, tout ce qui est désolé du terme, le field of play, mais le terrain de jeu, à date, c'est que du positif. Dans les montagnes, après ça, là, il y a de la neige. Bon, souvent, là, c'est l'inverse, trop de neige. Mais ça, c'est des ajustements. On a des techniciens, on est spécialisés. Puis ça, on est très fort là-dessus, le Canada aussi. Fait que la neige plus mouillée, par exemple, à Lévigno, il y a toutes sortes d'ajustements qui se font présentement là-dessus avec les techniciens.
Et juste à noter qu'une déclaration vient de sortir, une mise à jour de Marc. Just to point out that and there was an update that just went out, and I'll just add to Eric's comments to read that Mark will be undergoing routine follow-up testing today to determine his availability for tonight's snowboard big air qualification, with a decision expected by 4 o'clock local time. Prochaine question.
Oui, bonjour. Ma question est pour David, Tricia ou Eric. Hier, le Comité international olympique a indiqué que les Jeux de 2038 étaient probablement pour être attribués à la Suisse et que par la suite, il y avait des candidats asiatiques pour les Jeux suivants. Est-ce que ça change votre stratégie pour tenir des Jeux au Canada éventuellement? Est-ce que, par exemple, vous pourriez être porté à soutenir davantage une candidature pour organiser des Jeux d'été plutôt que des Jeux d'hiver?
Est-ce que je peux répondre en anglais?
Oui.
Okay. So the Winter Games of 2038, the IOC announced some time ago, were in what they called privileged dialogue with Switzerland. And Swiss government and the Swiss Olympic Committee recently announced an injection of investment into those games, but they're by no means confirmed. And so we'll wait for further updates and wait earnestly. Because the importance of hosting the Olympic Games in Canada is not lost on us. It's something that we very much want to do. We see it as helping us meet several different objectives, including helping boost and invest in infrastructure that's badly needed, create the inspiration for young people to participate in sport, to continue to secure private investment in the dollars upon which we so much depend, and to unite a country around, the hosting of games there's nothing quite like that. So we're very much focused on it. If not 38, then beyond. And I would say that at this point, whether winter or summer, we will continue to pursue all options as they're available to us. The only other thing I would say is that that's a long time to wait. And so in the interim, there are several other things that we will continue to pursue: the hosting of World Cups and World Championships with our national sports organizations, perhaps even clustering them in ways, smaller multi-sport events like the Youth Olympic Games and perhaps some other things of that nature, because we do think that the value of hosting sporting events in the country is incredible. 2026 will show that, the FIFA World Cup coming, Cycling World Championships in Montreal, and so on. It'll be a wonderful year after Milano Cortina, and we want to see that continue in the country.
Bonjour, Frédéric Arnould de Radio-Canada. Une question pour Eric Myles. En fait, deux questions. D'abord, est-ce qu'il y a un chiffre magique de médailles? Est-ce qu'on veut plus se rapprocher du record de Vancouver en termes de médailles d'or ou de Pyeongchang en termes de nombre absolu? Et la deuxième question concerne les inquiétudes financières évoquées un peu plus tôt par votre collègue Shoemaker. En tant que chef sportif de la Team Canada, en quoi ça vous inquiète, ces pressions financières pour le futur, et aussi le fait que ce pool d'athlètes potentiels peut être un peu plus réduit qu'avant?
Au niveau de la performance, le chiffre, je répète souvent, c'est tellement difficile à prédire. Hein. On parle d'une collaboration notamment avec nous, le podium. Évidemment, on les suit, on les connaît les statistiques, on connaît les résultats qu'on a fait avant. Je mentionnais plus tôt dans une autre discussion. Est-ce que c'est entre la vingtaine, la trentaine? C'est difficile. On va avoir des incroyables performances. En bout de ligne, je parlais de performance humaine tantôt. C'est vraiment à ce niveau-là qu'on veut se rendre. Ce qu'on souhaite à nos athlètes, c'est vraiment de performer à leur mieux au moment précis. Et là, ça nous donnera les meilleurs résultats possibles. Est-ce que les meilleurs résultats vont nous mener près de la trentaine de médailles, par exemple? Est-ce qu'on va être, par contre, dans des difficultés ou des fois avec des quatrièmes, des cinquièmes places, avec des performances incroyables, mais qui vont nous ramener autour de la vingtaine? Le range peut bouger dans ce ratio-là. C'est certain qu'on désire toujours le plus haut côté, mais on va le découvrir dans les prochains jours. Pour ce qui est du financement, bien, écoute, on en a tellement parlé, puis on ne recule pas. Puis l'idée ici, c'est vraiment... David mentionnait tantôt le plan 2035 que l'on propose. Ça, puis c'est vraiment une main tendue, je vous dirais, aux partenaires. Puis quand je dis les partenaires, c'est le gouvernement fédéral, les gouvernements provinciaux, c'est les différents paliers, même locaux, quand on pense aux clubs sportifs. Il faut vraiment trouver des solutions ensemble. Quand on parle d'accessibilité du sport, quand on parle de la pratique, on voit, on ne les invente pas, ces histoires-là, le coût pour les athlètes pour se rendre où ils sont rendus aujourd'hui. Ce qui devient inquiétant un peu là-dedans, puis dans le futur, quand on parle justement de long terme, c'est le financement n'a réellement pas bougé pour les fédérations depuis 2006. Ça a pris bout de temps quand on connaît toutes les réalités du cours de la vie. Et puis là, on en arrive à des décisions qui n'ont pas le choix d'être prises, de recul, d'un sens. On voit des camps juniors qui sont coupés des camps U23, et ça coupe dans l'expérience. Ensuite, ça coupe dans on parle de pression pour les athlètes. Plus qu'on coupe rapidement, plus la pression est grande. En bout de ligne, c'est une pression sur les athlètes, une pression sur les familles. C'est tout ça qu'on aborde quand on regarde ça. Puis il faut vraiment se re-questionner ensemble comme pays sur l'ensemble du système. C'est certain qu'on va soutenir autant l'hiver que l'été. C'est notre réalité canadienne. Mais à partir de là, comment on s'y rend dans les prochaines années? Puis oui, le gouvernement fédéral doit être à la table avec nous. On a des bonnes discussions, mais il faut des investissements sérieux qui suivent pour continuer. Puis c'est pas juste des ambitions pour... souvent, on va entendre dans les critiques 2 semaines des Jeux. Bien, combien d'entre nous, on a tous été inspirés par des moments canadiens? C'est le temps d'être fiers, c'est le temps d'être compétitif, c'est ce qu'on souhaite.
Thank you very much. Graham Dunbar from the Associated Press. David, you hinted that, a lot of tensions globally, but maybe few countries have had such a good past year as Canada, a very renewed sense of national identity, maybe the world's most impressive political leader. How might we see that expressed by the athletes during these games? Are we going to see lots of elbows up? And have you told them, the athletes, just to tone it down a bit, especially if there are going to be any Canada-US hockey games, which I think everyone wants to see?
Well, I think our Canadian athletes are focused on the matter at hand, which is doing everything they can do to compete at their best at these games. The rivalry with the United States is one that's decades and decades old in sport, and yet I think there's a little bit more riding on it, and we'll certainly see that in the hockey games and in the other sport venues. But you wouldn't need to tell, and we certainly haven't instructed our athletes to behave in a certain way. But our women's hockey team, for example, they know what's at stake when they compete against the U.S. That is, the best rivalry in women's hockey, and we're looking forward to seeing it. And what's great about sport is I think that they're going to compete like heck, and then whatever the outcome, shake hands at the end of the day.
Donna Spencer, Canadian Press. I guess, Dave, on sort of tangentially related to Mark McMorris, I think it's been, by my count, I think it's been 4 athletes since the Canadian team was named whose ability to compete here has been impacted by injuries in different ways. Replacement on the men's hockey team, withdrawal of a snowboarder. And I guess, does that concern you at this point? You just mentioned a thinning athlete pool, and I know when we were talking with Anne, she said Canada isn't a particularly deep team. So does that concern you, these injuries?
Well, it concerns me first and foremost for these athletes who, as we all know, spend their lifetime working toward the Olympic Games. And so for those who've been injured and unable to compete, I feel for them first and foremost. And therefore give them as much support to see if they can compete in the case of those where it's questionable, and then for those who haven't been able to compete, give them the support so that perhaps there's the next Olympic opportunity for them. That in terms of our thinning athlete pool, it is a concern for sort of our next games, not so much here today. But we very much have our eye on that, that a lot of our sports have done everything they can do to focus on the here and now, to supporting our athletes in showing up in Milano Cortina to do the best of their ability, but perhaps at the expense of the future. Look, we'd like to see these games. Competition started, we're thankful for that, but yes, certainly these injuries have not been something we've been happy to see.
Rob Livingstone, GamesBids.com. I want to follow up on that bid question from the gentleman behind me. So it's one thing to want to bid for the games, but recently Canadians have kind of rejected opportunities. Calgary voters were against bids for these games, and in Vancouver, I guess it was the BC government rejected plans for that. So how do you deal with that? And also, you mentioned the Youth Olympics. Are there any real efforts? I think for the next Winter Games, it's 2032, and the summer, maybe 2030, 2034. Any real efforts going into that?
So you're not wrong. We have a complex system, a group of governments who need to be on board in order to support an Olympic bid in this country. And the way we deal with that is we think we need a refreshed strategy, and it has to come from the top and has to have real alignment with the federal government. Say, this is something we want, and here's why we want to do it. And see it as an investment in our future, an investment in nation building, for all the reasons that we've described, and why sport can be so good. It can unite communities. It can deliver infrastructure projects that otherwise wouldn't come to communities across the country. And then once we can meet on a vision, be able to sell it through the provincial and local governments, and of course the people in those communities. I think if we can do that effectively, partnering with the federal government, we'll have a much better chance of success than perhaps the last two efforts that you've just described. In terms of Youth Olympic Games, the IOC has put a pause on just sort of evaluating, let's see how the next one goes, the next one being in Senegal, before deciding what the future of the Youth Olympic Games. But I use it as an example of what are the alternative multi-sport initiatives or the grouping of single sport initiatives that we could do in Canada to mimic the impact that an Olympic Games could have in our communities and for our country. And that's where we're willing to consider multiple options.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pass the microphone.
Hi guys, Bruce Arthur from the Toronto Star. Just following up on the thinning athlete pool, and this I guess would be for David and potentially for Eric as well. Can you describe what that looks like at your end in terms of a thinning athlete pool over the last, since, let's say, just even since Vancouver to now? And what do you think are the reasons, what reasons do you see for that in the country at the moment?
I'll go back to front, Bruce. The reasons is that with a lack of increase in federal government funding for national sports organizations in 20 years, that national sports organizations have had to make tough decisions, and those tough decisions are showing up in a few different places. One of them is that they've been unable to focus much on developing their sport at the grassroots level, and so even just getting young people into organized sport is such a real challenge, and it's getting increasingly expensive. So setting the programs and policies for sport in the country is something that we'd like to see better developed, and it's why part of Team Canada 2035, we're investing ourselves for the first time ever in helping do that. The other thing that's been sacrificed as a result of lack of increase in federal funding is an investment in the next generation of athletes, so 5 to 8 years out, who's coming along. And we really haven't seen an injection from the federal government in any form of funding in the aftermath of the Vancouver Olympic Games, which is now 16 years ago. And so what I think we're seeing is still the tail end here in Milano Cortina of that athlete pool that benefited from the focus on performance from Vancouver 2010. We're not likely to see that effect going forward in the Winter Games.
Can I add a specific example to that discussion? Like, let's take ski cross, for example. It's one of our top sports in Canada. The heart of this team right now that is really talented, it's pretty much comes from the Next Generation program 2014. In 2014, in the Next Generation program, was a cost about $10,000 for an athlete to do the full year, camp, everything. That same athlete today entering the Next Gen program is $30,000 a year. So just that, if there's 2 siblings, for example, on the team, I don't believe they wouldn't be there today in those reality. And we see also, without getting in detail there, but membership that needs to be paid by many to be on the national team, which is, we don't see this in the other top competitor or top country that we compete against.
Bonjour, ici de ce côté-ci. Voilà. Philippe Bonneville, Cogeco Nouvelles, 98.5 FM. Pour Jennifer, en français, si possible, un de vos objectifs en tant que chef de mission, c'est de faire en sorte que ce soit Team Canada, une équipe. Mais pour la première fois, les athlètes sont vraiment dispersés sur un immense territoire avec plusieurs plus petits villages des athlètes. Quelle forme de défi ça représente pour vous pour s'assurer justement que ce soit Team Canada, une équipe canadienne et non pas plusieurs petites équipes éloignées les unes des autres?
Merci, je vais essayer de répondre en français ou au moins commencer. Oui, c'est sûr, il y a des défis uniques ici avec le cluster approach, mais le travail d'être une équipe unie a commencé presque déjà 1 an, où on came together plusieurs fois, équipe Canada. Okay, now I'm going to English. Sorry about that. Yeah, we've made huge investment into bringing the team together. Because, you know, the smiles and the high fives across teammates, they do matter. And we're actually seeing that in the team. I was in the village yesterday, and we had athletes across sports, you know, having side conversations, and you could see, you know, really being a team. So we can see that it's paid off. But also, we're doing some, you know, technology is at our disposal. And so we have chats across the villages in the athlete lounges where you can talk with the other athletes. That's happening every couple days. We also have activities online to come together and do yoga and meditation. And then we'll have daily highlights that CBC is providing to celebrate the performances, which are a huge source of inspiration for the athletes about to compete. So we've been incredibly thoughtful about it. I think, you know, we have seen great distances. I've been to 3 Olympics, and 2 of those I was in a satellite village. But we've put a lot of effort into that team, and I think we're on track.
Do we have any other questions?
Hi, Heather Butts with CTV National News. I can't help but look at the numbers as your fact sheet was handed out. The most gold medals happen to be on home soil. Just wondering the hopes, the dreams, the wishes for this year, perhaps.
I mentioned it a bit earlier, like the real hope really it's to get them at their best right now, the best moment. We're talking about injuries and everything. Of course, we do a lot of work to prevent all this as much as possible. The environment we're creating, we're not measuring specifically just the gold medal. Like truly, we're striving towards the best performance, and we're measuring top 5, top 8, looking at we talk about a lot of rookie coming at the games too. It's really important, their results and how they will progress from Olympics to Olympics. Of course, at the end, we hope the best. If we come here and we beat, let's say, the Vancouver record, or we surpass, let's say, the 30 medal target that we get there, that would be fantastic. But if we put too much focus just on this, I'll use the same logic of an athlete. That's what we're going to miss, you know? Like it's all about the process right now. It's all about the preparation, and we're truly buying this plan with the athletes, a step-by-step approach, and from there to deliver our best, and from there we'll see in 2 weeks or so, we'll see where we're at.
If I can just add something to that, I just want to point out that the culture within Team Canada is performance and is excellence. And so there are a number of athletes, you know, that have spoken out around their goals. There are teams, you know, that have certain objectives on their walls and things that they're working to. And so they really are motivated by, you know, having the best performances and knowing that that's going to bring medals. So I think, you know, with 2010, you know, there was a shift in terms of the culture of sport and focusing on the podium, and we see that in the athletes, and we see where their focus is. And you know, some athletes are calling it out directly. I'm not here to participate, but that sentiment is the same, you know, across the team and what the team is focused on.
Chris.
Chris Reyes with Canadian Broadcasting. This question is for you, David. You've touched now, and everybody on the panel, on the importance of spreading Canadian values at these games, especially in this time that we're living in with so much global tensions. Do you think it's a missed opportunity that there is no Canada House in Milan or any of the clusters to spread these values?
Well, there is a Canada Olympic House celebration series. It will travel to Cortina, then Livigno, and it will be 2 days in Milan. And we think that's the right model for these games, where we have 11 sports, 16 sport disciplines that are taking place in 7 different sport clusters in the part of northern Italy. That the best way to spread Canada and Canadian values and Canadian cheer is to bring Canada Olympic House as a celebration series to the clusters rather than to center it in one spot.
Thank you, David. And with that, we will wrap up the Q&A because we are going to be booted out of this room momentarily. Thank you so much for joining us. Un grand merci à tous de votre présence ce matin. We do appreciate all of your efforts in highlighting all of the incredible stories of the athletes of Team Canada. Nous vous remercions pour tout le travail que vous avez accompli en partageant les histoires incroyables des athlètes d'équipe Canada qui ont travaillé si dur pour être ici. Having covered the games as a journalist before, I know that it can be kind of tricky when it comes to media access, you know, and coverage rules. So we are here to help. Again, our office is just down the hall to the left, and our speakers will be available for one-on-ones for the next 20 minutes or so if you still have other questions. Enjoy the games. Profitez des jeux.
Okay.